What's up, everyone? My name is Isaiah Newsom, and this is the ZayNews Podcast, where we talk about all things hoops, whether it's the NBA, college basketball, youth sports, you name it. If it's about basketball, we talk about it. And this is prime time basketball because the NBA playoffs are going on. So we're diving deep into the NBA playoffs, round two, what's going on there. But also, the NBA has felt like a soap opera lately with all that's going on, all the different narratives, teams getting the first pick in the lottery after a fumble in the bag, what seemed to be fumble in the bag a few months ago, right? We want to talk about all this stuff. There's a lot of drama going on in the NBA, and I anticipate a very fun offseason coming up here shortly as well. So there's never too much to talk about, and I want to make sure I get into all of it. So without further ado, let's get into the ZayNews Podcast. Wait, I forgot, before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, leave a comment. Really, I want to encourage you guys to engage with the content. Leave comments. Let me know where you're differing with my perspective. Let me know where I'm crazy. Let me know where I'm just all out of whack. Or if I'm on the money, leave 100 there and let me know that I'm on the money, right? And I mean the emoji, not a $100 bill. You feel me? So without further ado, let's get into it. But again, if you like the content, engage with the content. Appreciate you. Anyways, starting right off the bat, I want to start here because I think this is something that's very important, right? And that is Jayson Tatum's injury from yesterday, right? Yesterday at the end of game 5 versus the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks, he suffered a soft tissue injury. We didn't know what it was. Reports came out just recently, I want to say within the last hour, that he actually went into surgery today to start the process for what was a torn Achilles. Super unfortunate. It's weird. These Achilles injuries have been popping up more and more over the past, 5, 6, 7 years now. And for whatever reason, they happen at just the most inopportune times. With Kevin Durant going down in the NBA Finals, you got Damian Lillard coming back, fighting back, trying to get back into playing shape this season, going out for him, and then now you have Jayson Tatum on a team who was thought to be the favorites to win the NBA Finals and repeat, goes down with a torn Achilles in game 5. Now his season is over, and most likely next season is going to be over for him as well. It's unfortunate, man, and you hate to see it for a player of Tatum's not only caliber, but I think of his character as well. I think if there's one thing Jayson Tatum doesn't get a lot of credit for, it's being a very high character guy, being a great leader, being a guy who leads by example, who's not willing, who who is not unwilling to go and do the dirty work, play both sides of the ball in an era. Let's be honest. I mean, there's always been players like this, but when there's a lot of guys who don't play both sides of the ball or can't play both sides of the ball, he's willing to guard one of the best players on the team. He's willing to go rebound if his shot's not falling. Right? There's a lot of things that you gotta admire about Jayson Tatum and the way he plays the game, and we're so focused on the Boston Celtics shoot too many threes, maybe settling for shots when they shouldn't, that he tends to get overlooked and underappreciated. So I just want to take a second to send prayers to Jayson Tatum. It's a long road to recovery. I've had family members tear their Achilles. I've had teammates tear their Achilles. I know it's not easy, but I think if there's one bright spot, it's that we've saw now Kevin Durant do it successfully, come back and have a very productive and high level career post Achilles injury, and he was in the prime of his career, a little bit older than Jayson Tatum was. We've seen now Klay Thompson do it, and Klay Thompson had 2 injuries in a row back to back. And for a guy who runs around the court as much as he does, I can't imagine that was easy. So you've seen guys do it successfully, and you've seen guys come back and reach pretty much the same level as what they were before. And I think that's important because, medicine continues to get better, and hopefully he can come back after next season. I hope he takes as much time as he needs and he doesn't try to rush back for any reason. Because trust me when I tell you, as a guy who, works in this lane, when you have imbalances in your body, right, or when you have significant injuries, it causes imbalances in your body, meaning and over and your body starts to compensate, right? So you get injured, you create these imbalances in your body starts to overcompensate in one area or another. This overcompensation, we see it all the time, leads to more soft tissue injuries, in the long run. So I like to see him take as much time as he needs. He's still a young guy. At the very worst, he can come back at 28 still early in his prime and have a great career post injury. So hopefully he takes the time that he needs. And if that is all of next season, then it's all of next season. And I think he'll come back the season after that better than ever. You know what I'm saying? So I hope he takes the time that he needs. I think he'll make a full recovery and he'll come back and play at an MVP level again, because this season, like 27, like 7-6 or whatever he was at, is an MVP caliber season most years. I think he can definitely achieve that again. You know what I'm saying? With just the type of guy he is and the type of athlete he is on the floor. So again, prayers up to Jayson Tatum. I wish him all the best. Let me get a sip of water because I am coughing like no other. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. These allergies been kicking my butt, guys. Anyways, moving on to the second round of the playoffs, what's been going on, and just touching bases with where we're at. I want to start with the Indiana Pacers versus the Cleveland Cavaliers and just get that one out of the way. I was wrong, guys. I thought that if the Cleveland Cavaliers could get back healthy. Now, let me be fair and say that I don't know if they are fully healthy. I doubt that they are. They're returning and putting their best foot forward, but they've been kind of thrown out of whack. But I did think that if their guys were able to return, they'd be able to extend the series to 7 games and potentially win again. But that just, based on last game, is not the case. The Indiana Pacers are motivated. They're motivated. They are ready to go, and they are playing extremely hard. And I think we all, if you haven't already, have to start giving them guys some credit. And I am one guy who has not given them the credit that they deserve up to this point, if I'm being fully honest with you guys. I've thought that they've had the luck of the draw. I've thought that, due to injuries and stuff, they'd had the past 2 seasons really a pretty easy path through the playoffs. And I thought most of it was luck. But I think one thing that they're showing us is that these guys have a lot of substance to them. They have a really deep team, a really good team, very good chemistry within that locker room. And it shows on the court and the way they trust each other, the way they play hard, right? They're listening to the staff, their coaching staff. They're responding well. I imagine they're a locker room where they can challenge each other and respond to that criticism and whatnot well. And anytime you get a team like that who is dynamic in their play style, man, they're dangerous. And that's what they're showing. And to be honest with you, they very well could make it to the NBA Finals. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be them versus the Knicks. And I think that, with the way both teams have been playing, quite possibly is a pick'em series. You know what I'm saying? I'm done second guessing the Pacers. So I think that's a pick'em series. Now with that said, I'm not second guessing the Knicks either, but I think that's a pick'em. I think it could go 7 like it did last year, and game 7s can go, the ball can bounce either way. So who knows? But yeah, I think that series is a wrap, man. I think Donovan Mitchell is fatigued. He's limping now too. I think him having to carry so much of the load early in the series was, tough on him. And now, even though guys are back, they're not back to 100%, and they just don't have the juice right now, which it's unfortunate. That's why a lot of people say, there's a little bit of luck involved anytime you win an NBA championship, because you have to stay healthy. You have to stay healthy for 100 games in order to get to that finish line. And that's a lot of basketball being played. And, anything can happen on any given night. So it's unfortunate for Cleveland, but I think they're not going to make too many moves this offseason. I think they're going to keep their core group of guys. I think they'll be back. They'll be competitive. They'll be a top 3 seed in the East again next year. Excuse me. I think, and the reason I say top 3 seed is because usually teams realize after they win a 60-something game season how much it takes out of you. So they tend to be more selective with their energy, and they pick and choose a little bit more. Just historically, that's what I've seen. So I don't necessarily see them winning 64 games again, but could I see them winning 58, 56, and still being a top 3 seed? Absolutely. And I think they'll do that. And you got guys like Evan Mobley, who's still getting better. Jarrett Allen's still young. Darius Garland's still young. Donovan Mitchell's in the prime of his career, still pretty young, still, on the right side of 30. So I think they rock with what they got. And to be honest, I don't know what changes they could make that would make them significantly better. I've heard in, some pipe dreams and some people talk about Well, if LeBron opts out and he wants to go try for one more championship, maybe he should go to Cleveland and end his career there. I don't think he's leaving his son. I think he likes what he has in LA, and they're going to stick it out there. But just my thoughts on Cleveland, man. Wish those guys the best. Hopefully, if the season ends for them here today, I think is game 5. Um, then hopefully that they can heal up over the off season and come back better than ever next season. And then Pacers, we'll see. Uh, Staying in the East, Boston versus New York Knicks. Obviously, I already touched on Jayson Tatum's injury happened at the end of last game. But let's not get it confused. They did not lose that game because Jayson Tatum got injured. And I think we have to distinguish between those two things, right? Because Boston was up in that game, right? I think they had gotten up to like a 14-point lead. But the Knicks came storming back like they had in the first 2 games. And they took the lead in the fourth quarter. And they had kept the lead, they had sustained the lead, and I think Jayson Tatum had gotten an and one with like 5 minutes left and tied the game up. From there on out, it was all Knicks. And by the time Jayson Tatum got injured with like 3 minutes left, they were up, I think, 114 to 104, if I'm not mistaken. I could be a little bit wrong on that. I can't quite remember. But they were clearly up, and they were clearly going to win that game when you have the best closer, who was voted as the best closer in the NBA, on your team in Jalen Brunson, who was having a monster game as well. It's unfortunate again, and we wish Jayson Tatum the best, but it seems like for whatever reason, the Knicks just kind of have these guys pegged. And I think some of it is that, Kristaps Porzingis isn't fully healthy. He's trying to play, but he's not being super effective in these games. He's having a hard time because the Knicks have some physical bigs who really attack the glass in Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. So he's not getting, the breaks that he gets in some other series where he can just kind of play guys, either along the perimeter, what I'm saying, be a help side defender, not really have to guard bigs and keep them off the glass. But he's having to be physical in this series. And I think that's one thing outside of him also having an illness that's really affecting his play. And I think the Celtics are paying for it. Now, it's not just Kristaps, right? Jaylen Brown hasn't played to his potential. Jayson Tatum before last game was not playing to his potential. And you could see the age in some of their guys. Now, Al Horford has been aging for like the past 3-4 seasons, right? He does a lot of the small things great, but he still is getting older. I think he's 38 or 39 this season. So, I mean, there's only so much you can ask of him. And then you look at Jrue Holiday. I believe Jrue Holiday is 35 now, and you still have him guarding the best player on the opposing team every possession. Like, it's a lot to ask of him at this point in his career to do that and expect him to produce offensively. Now, I don't think it's unreasonable for him to score, 10, 12 points, but there's a reason he's not being as effective offensively, and you're asking a lot out of him guarding a guy like Jalen Brunson, up and down 90, 94 feet, every game in a series. So there's only so much you can ask. But yeah, I think they're just getting thoroughly outplayed, right? It didn't have nothing to do with injuries. They're getting beaten. They're getting these big leads early in games, and they're allowing the Knicks to come back and punch them in the mouth. And when the Knicks respond, they have no answer for it, right? Outside of game 3, they have no answer for it when the Knicks come storming back, and that's just the reality of this series. Mikal Bridges has been awesome. Outside of game 1, I think Karl Anthony Towns has been really consistent. He's been the big that they've needed. He hasn't scored a ton, which is okay. He's gotten his 20 and 10, and it's been a solid 20 and 10. It's been an efficient 20 and 10. It hasn't been him forcing up bad shots. It's been him playing within the game, attacking in the post, and that's what you want to see out of Cat. Now, he can shoot the heck out of that ball, and don't get me wrong, if he's open, he can shoot, but time and score matters, where you're scoring from matters, and I think he's made a conscious effort to be the big that we know he can be, the enforcer that we know he can be in the paint. And again, I think that's been a really big part of their success in the series. And then role players have played great. Now, they don't go deep into the bench. We know how Thibodeau rosters usually go, but the guys who are all playing well. Anunoby, Mikal, Josh Hart's doing his thing. He hasn't had a big offensive series. He hasn't had a big offensive playoffs, but he's still playing meaningful minutes. He still is dynamic, crashing the boards, being a pest, being annoying, being in the right place at the right time, and he's playing good basketball as well. So, um, tip your hats to the Knicks, man. Tip your hats to the Knicks. If I could be honest with you, I would love to see the Knicks go to the finals. And at this point, with the teams that are left in the field, win the finals. If there was one team I could pick to win the finals at this point, I think it'd be the Knicks. I think it'd be great for that franchise. They need it. I think it'd be great for Karl Anthony Towns, for Jalen Brunson, for what it means for their legacies as Knicks players. My goodness, can you imagine, having a finals, in the Garden, what that atmosphere is going to be like? And honestly, I think they can beat any of the teams in the West. I think obviously the Thunder they'd have their work cut out for them with the depth of the Thunder and what have you, and the struggles that Cat may have with two bigs that can guard him. And he'll still get his buckets, but it just may be a little bit tougher of a series. But I would love to see it. That's for dang sure. Denver versus the Thunder, tied 2-2. It feels like the Thunder are the better team, right? But it seems like the Nuggets are doing just enough to hang around. And I think at the end of the games, they've closed the games a little bit more consistently, right? There was one blowout, and then out of the three games that were actually competitive, that the Nuggets, besides Game 4, have closed those two games that they won pretty well. And yeah, but it does feel like the Oklahoma City Thunder are better, right? When you watch these games, it feels like they have more layers to them as a team, right? And it makes sense. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of youth. They can play multiple different styles. They get up and down. They defend well. They feel like the better team. They feel like the better team, the deeper team. I don't know if it's youth and experience at this point, but there's something about them that I don't trust though. And for me, when I watch them play, I think a lot of it has to do with the way their offenses ran. I don't trust that they can consistently get like a lot of consistent scoring out of like a second option, whether it's Jalen Williams, whether it's Chet. Definitely not Chet. I mean, not to say that he's playing bad or anything, but just offensively, you don't always know what you're going to get out of him. And Jalen Williams either, though. They'll have one good game where they have 25. One of them will have 25, and then the next game they'll have 10 on like 3 of 13 shooting. And I don't think it's all their fault, though. I think the design of their offense is very SGA oriented, right? So it's very him dribbling the ball a lot. It's very dribble heavy of him just dribbling, and guys standing around and watching, him hunting for fouls, him hunting for shots. And I think that's where they're limited in my eyes, because their defense is great. What I'm saying? They play high level defense, and that's from top to bottom, from the best player to the worst player. Every guy defends at a very high level. But it's just offensively for me. There's a lot to be desired, especially in physical series when Shea's not getting the whistle that he normally got in the regular season. And we've seen it, and I think that's why they've had a lot of their inconsistencies. I think they probably still win this series. Joker's been struggling in this series, and he's had to do a lot. It's been a long playoffs for him already, right? And we're only in the second round, right? He's had to go up against Zubac. Now he's having to go up against Hardenstein and Chet. If we're being honest, right, like if there's one thing about this era of centers, of great centers that we can challenge, is that they haven't consistently had to go up against the same amount of size and physicality as past centers have, right? So if you look back in eras, whether it's the 2000s, whether it's the 90s, the 80s, there are so many good bigs that it's almost like every night you have your work cut out for you. Similar to now how it is at the guard spots, right? Every night you're going up against competitive guard. And it's just not that way for bigs now. So when you see that and you see guys start to struggle, I think a lot of it has to do with, one, they're used to being the biggest guy on the court typically. And two, they're just not challenged as consistently as past eras have been. So I think in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is, one, I think that's fatiguing on a guy like Joker who likes to use his size quite a bit to get angles, right? Because he's not the most athletic guy. He's great at using his body to create advantages. And it's been hard for him to do that in the series because even if he, I have no doubt in my mind if that Chet's guarding him one-on-one or Hardenstein's guarding him one-on-one, that he would, have his way. But especially when both of those guys are on the court, you make a move, you have the help side defender coming who's 7 foot, with a 7'6" wingspan, whatever Chet is. That's tough. You know what I'm saying? That is very tough to get around. So I think Joker has one more big game in him this series where he figures it out, where he plays well, where he plays efficiently, because he hasn't been playing that efficiently. And I see the series going 7. I just don't know if they have enough in the tank with them being more limited in terms of their depth to pull out a game 7. Now, again, game 7s can bounce either way, but I think ultimately Oklahoma City wins it on their depth and wins it on their defensive abilities. That's how I would summarize it. But again, I am not fully confident in the Thunder. I think they make it out of the West. I think they've had a pretty, Steph getting hurt, the Lakers just, whatever the Lakers did. Minnesota's not playing great basketball right now, and I think in a series versus OKC, who's another great defensive team, but their best player is going to be on the court, plus some guys who can really go as well. I don't think Minnesota is going to get by them, has enough to get by them, unless Anthony Edwards goes absolutely bananas. So it seems like they have a path to the finals, and I would probably say that they're the favorite to win the finals, but definitely not, wouldn't be my most favorite to win the finals, if I'm being honest with you guys. And then last series, just moving on really quickly, I spent quite a bit of time there. The Warriors versus Minnesota, as to be expected, right? The Warriors' best player goes down. They just don't have enough scoring to win right now. They've been close, and one thing that they have shown is that their defense is good enough to slow anybody down, because even, without Steph on the court, their defense has made these games competitive. But, there's so many possessions in a game, you have to find ways to score for 48 minutes. And they've been able to score for 38 minutes, 42 minutes, 45 minutes, but just not 48 minutes, not at the pace that Minnesota is. So it's tough, man. I don't think Jimmy's in a place where he's the guy who's going to get you a 35-point triple-double in this stage of his career, right? Especially, when he falls on his back in the first round, and that back, you can tell, has been bothering him since then. You know what I'm saying? So I'd like to see this game go 6 and maybe get Steph back, but I also don't want Steph trying to rush back to a series for what, right? Like, ultimately, I think even if it's a grade 1 hamstring strain, it's something that may linger throughout the rest of these playoffs. And what I would hate to happen is for Steph to rush back, which we see and have seen so frequently, try to, play in a game 6 or a game 7 here, even if they win, go into another series where he's still a little bit hobbled, not full trust in that hamstring, and then a more severe injury happens, right? For a guy like him, 6'3", 37, 180, 190 pounds, always been, a leaner guy. At this stage of his career, I just don't want to see that be the injury that happens to him, because as we've seen, hamstrings are tough. My goodness, hamstrings are tough. And what's tough about him is it seems like, the injury doesn't necessarily take as long as a Achilles or something like that to heal in terms of like just reattaching and being functional. But it seems like that trust and that power, a lot of strength comes from the hamstrings. They do a lot for us as basketball players, running, jumping, cutting, you name it, right? The one saving grace is that Steph isn't doing a lot of work. Isolation, right? He's usually running off ball, so I don't think it'd affect him the same way like it affected Harden, right? Where Harden first came back from his hamstring strain, it just didn't seem like he was nearly as explosive, with the ball in his hand, getting by guys. So yeah, I mean, I just don't want to see him rush back. Probably lose to OKC anyways, but wind up hurting himself in the process. Now, if he's fully good and he's fully good to go, then, that's one thing, but I'd really rather them just be cautious. I think, hopefully they can extend it one more game, and if he's feeling good, then by all means, whatever. But if there's even the slightest chance that he still having some trouble there, I'd rather just see him take, take the rest of the season off, man. Just like go into the off season, feel good about the work you did. In that later half of the season when you guys got Jimmy, you guys have something that you can definitely build on. Go into the off season, try and go get some more size, a little bit more talent, and see what goes on from there. I will tell you guys one thing though, outside of the whole Steph Curry, um, the Steph Curry side of things is this is one of the first times where I was like, the Warriors could really use Jordan Poole right now. I think with the defense that the Warriors have been playing, if they had Jordan Poole, especially Jordan Poole that was playing on those Warriors teams before he got traded to the Wizards, I think they could have stole a game. And I think based on what I'm seeing from the Minnesota right now, they maybe could have won the series with Jordan Poole. Like if you just have one guy who can score consistently, take some pressure off guys, maybe create more openings for Jimmy Butler so he doesn't have to, try and score every possession, mono, 1-on-2, 1-on-3, you know what I'm saying? Because the help side defense and stuff like that. Like I think this would be a Jordan Poole coming out party type series, right? Like this would be tailor made for him. That's just something that I thought about. But this is one of the first times where I've watched the Warriors play since they traded him and was like, yeah, there's been other moments, right, where they could have used other scoring, but here with Steph out, it just felt like, dang, this would have been fun to watch. This would have been fun to watch for sure. But okay, a few more things I want to get to before wrapping up, and that is the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I don't know how, but by the grace of God, Nico Harrison might have saved his job last night, and that is because the Dallas Mavericks won the lottery. They got the first pick in the 2025 draft, and they've already came out with a statement saying that they are not going to trade that pick, and they are going to draft Cooper Flagg. Good job, Dallas. Way not to fumble the bag. I've seen a lot of memes out there and a lot of people commenting like, huh? Could he spin this for something else? And more than anything, more than the Nico Harrison, side of things, whatever that means for him, for his job, for Dallas ownership, all that sort of stuff, they don't deserve it. I want to make that abundantly clear. They got lucky. Dallas, Nico, you guys did not deserve to get the first pick. Now, I'm happy for the fans of Dallas that they got the first pick. And that's what I wanted to get to next, is the fans deserved it. After trading a guy who you thought was going to be a lifer, who had already taken his team to 2 conference finals and 1 finals, only 26 years old, who had given his all to this franchise, if we're just being blatantly honest, right? Given his all, had played through injuries, had carried the load offensively, and really just put this team on his back at different points of his career. Won playoff series, went to battle with, all-timers, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, you name it, had historical playoff series. You trade him, you know what I'm saying? You break the fan's heart, you break his heart. Nico makes all these comments in the defense wins championships, all this sort of BS stuff that really doesn't mean anything for a guy who just took that team to the championship and just lost to a team that was loaded. I felt for the fans, right? I felt for the fans. But, there's a lot, just from yesterday, there is a lot of hope back in Dallas. I can tell you that. They got Paige Buchers now. They got Cooper Flagg. Man, what a turnaround a couple months can make. So, I bet you see Nico keep that job in Dallas. I thought he maybe would have gotten moved. If all for just like him being the fall guy, you know what I'm saying? Even if it was just him being the fall guy and doing what ownership said. And I very well believe that still could be the reality of the situation. Ownership could have been like, look, we don't want to pay this guy $350 million over the next 5 years. We just bought this franchise. It was expensive. We'd rather go another route. How can we do that? I think that very well could have been what had actually happened, and we just will never know. So I don't want to place all the blame on Nico, but I also think Nico had said some just like dumb stuff, I guess is the right way to say it. Just like, inauthentic, like lacks basketball knowledge as a GM. It just didn't seem authentic. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy just took you to the NBA Finals. You know what I'm saying? As your best player, averaged 34, 9 and 9, and you're talking about he doesn't play defense, and you're just kind of sliding him when it's just kind of lame, right? Just like from a character perspective, it just rubs you the wrong way. So, um, I mean, he's not completely resolved, even if that is what happened, and ownership was the one who nudged him in that direction. But still, I fully accept that could have been the possibility as well. That the ownership was the one who pushed for that trade to happen, and he just is the fall guy. So, anyways, roundabout way of me saying, ownership, Nico, you guys got lucky. You guys don't deserve it as a franchise, but the players deserve it. The fans deserve it, and I'm happy for the city of Dallas because they definitely deserve it. Honestly, man, Mark Cuban, why did you sell the team? I saw him on Twitter talking about how fans were unappreciative and he got tired of it and his kids didn't want to do it with him and yada yada yada. You were supposed to be the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, okay? Now you can pass on duties and you can do things to make it so you don't carry as much of the burden, and I'm sure he's done that at different points of his career, but be the owner, man. Like, why are you trading this team, or why are you selling this team to these guys, right? Like, Mark Cuban is always going to be associated with the Dallas Mavericks, and he should be. I hope at some point, I don't hope this. I don't hope this. I don't want to say this because it means the team is going to be bad. But, like, if the value of the Dallas Mavericks somehow drop, I hope he buys them again and has majority ownership again, because whoever's owning it has no business owning it. You know what I'm saying? They need to just, what they're trying to do, man, be the owner, dude. Like, what are you doing? Not a very articulate way of saying that, but you get what I'm saying. Mark, you should be the owner. And you were a great owner. Not a perfect owner. Nobody's perfect, whatever. And I know you probably want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. What's more enjoyable than sitting courtside at basketball games every night? You know what I'm saying? You're a hoop guy. I'm a hoop guy. There's a lot of hoop guys in the world. Sit courtside, be a part of the team, right? Like, that's what we love seeing that. That was one of my favorite parts of watching Dallas basketball games, seeing an owner that, like, was so well received by the players when in most cities it's just not that way. Um, I just think it's lame, man. Just kind of lame, man. But I guess you got to do what's best for you. I get it, but you sell the team and it, like, sets stuff on fire, and then they just so happen to luck their way into getting the first pick and quite possibly who could be a generational talent. I mean, again, thank God for the fans and the players' sake. They deserve it, but goodness gracious, like, the ineptitude of the what they have shown, I do not feel like the ownership and management deserves it. But whatever, we'll move on. But Mark, you should be the owner still, the majority owner still. Okay, last thing I want to talk about, and this is just what this offseason is going to look like. I got to be honest with you guys. This offseason, I was thinking about it, has potential to be absolutely bonkers. You think about the guys that could potentially get moved this offseason, and there's just so many moving parts that, like, who knows what's going to happen. Now, I will say, if a guy like Giannis, who just said he'd be open to a trade for the first time in his career, gets moved, it may end up just stalling a lot of movement, right? Because anytime a big guy like that is getting moved, everybody wants to hold all their chips because they don't want to do anything too fast. They want to make sure they can get the best deals possible. So that could end up tempering things down a bit and making it a little bit slower. But if not, think about all the guys that could potentially get moved. So you have Giannis, who could get moved, who could get traded this summer, get traded to team like the Spurs that could throw together a package for him. OKC, if they ended up getting bounced in the conference finals, the semis, if they get bounced in the semis, I could definitely see them, because that team who won 68 games has no business losing in the second round. But if they do, I could see them potentially putting together a package for Giannis, something like Chet. I don't know if they do Chet and Jalen Williams, but one of the two plus some of their role players, Caruso, Hardenstein, plus like 3 or 4 first round picks, probably get the job done. Again, the Spurs, Houston, all three of those teams I think would probably be funny. The Spurs, Houston, and OKC. So I guess not all Texas teams, but two of those Texas teams could throw together legitimate packages. You could do something like Sengun, and I don't know if they would do Sengun and Amen. But if so, here's one thing about Giannis. If I'm the Milwaukee Bucks and I'm trading Giannis to the Rockets, do I really want to trade him without getting Amen Thompson? Like the guy with the most potential, but who has a lot of work to do, but athletic. Like that's one tough part because every package I've seen have been like Sengun plus um, like Reed Shepard and then like 3 first-round picks. It's not a bad package. Don't get me wrong. You get some youth, you get some potential, but like, do you really want to make that trade without getting Amen Thompson? I don't know. Like, would you rather do the trade I just mentioned? Um, assuming that you can't have Amen and Sengun in the same package, right? Which I think you potentially could. You potentially could ask for both of those for a guy like Giannis, who's a top 20 player ever. But let's say you couldn't. Would you rather do Jalen Green, Amen, and then 3 first, maybe one more guy like the kid off the bench, his name escapes me right now, but like one more guy like 3 picks, or would you rather do Sengun, Shepard, maybe one more guy off the bench and like 3 picks? What route would you rather go? I think you got to get Amen in that trade. Ideally, if you get Amen and Sengun plus like 2 first, I think that's a heck of a deal, and I think it really sets up the Milwaukee Bucks nicely. So that would be an interesting one. Honestly, I would like to see, if he does get traded, I would like to see Giannis go to the Spurs more than anywhere, because him and just Victor in a front court sounds like the best defense of front court that we've ever seen. When I think about it, like the ability that Victor Wembanyama has to cover distance, block shots, and just be imposing on the defensive end of the floor, plus what Giannis does as a help side defender, plus an on-ball defender, because he's a good on-ball defender as well, that's a scary team to play against, right? Giannis is 6'10 with like a 7'5 wingspan. Victor is 7'5 with Lord knows what wingspan he has. You're covering up a lot of passing lanes, a lot of shots. Like, our teams getting to the rim on them and shooting any layups. You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you scoring on that team? I have no idea. I'll just leave it bluntly. I have no idea. But that's the team that I would like to see him go to most if he got traded there. But we shall see. So point being, this summer is going to be nuts. You got the Giannis trade happening. Depending on where he goes, other guys that can get moved, you got guys like Zion Williamson that may be shopped this summer, and maybe New Orleans shifts their focus. He's been in talks for trades for 3-4 years now. Who knows? Then you got guys who, like, teams that really need specific positional players, like the Lakers really needing a center. You got Dallas, who's going to need to probably make a trade for a point guard, because Kyrie probably won't be back until like February. If they're playing it safe and allowing him full time to recover, I would probably say like February. Dallas is going to need a point guard. Is Miami looking to make any moves, because they're pretty stagnant, and I think they've realized that this is the peak of what you're going to achieve with the foundational pieces they have over there. You got free agency coming, Miles Turner becoming a free agent, a few other guys being free agents this year. I think it's going to be a big year with a lot of potential moves to be made over the summer. So I'm excited to see it. Obviously, Giannis is going to be the driver of that. I would love to see Giannis in that Spurs uniform. I'd rather see him there than definitely. I wouldn't like to see him in OKC, to be honest with you. In a Spurs uniform, I think he'd be great. I was trying to think, are there any East teams that could get him? Nick Wright on his show, First Things First, he had mentioned that the 76ers could put together a package for him. I don't know how I feel about that, because it was like not Jaden McDaniels. It was Tyrese Maxey and the freshman point guard, or the rookie point guard, who was playing great before his ACL injury. It was like those two. Maybe you throw in Paul George to make the money work. No, Tyrese Maxey's already on a max, so you wouldn't need to do that. But you do Tyrese Maxey and the rookie, maybe plus a few picks. I don't like it. if you trade for Giannis, I want Giannis to play alongside Tyrese Maxey. I don't want you to have to give that up. And I think him and Maxey together could be electric. Um, so nah, I don't love it. But I do, and the reason I mentioned that, like, is there any teams in the East, is because I don't want to see all the talent in the West, especially with the way the playoffs are formatted, right? Like the West is already so competitive, as evidence of this year. We don't want to see like it it I don't know if you want it to be any more competitive than it was this year, and then the East to just take a step back. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think it's better when there's more balance in there. So as much as I mean, I'd rather see Giannis. I think the best fit for him would be the Spurs. I don't. I think it might be better for the NBA if he goes to the East. I mean, also ideally, that first pick doesn't go to Dallas and it goes to one of those Eastern teams. For that sake, I think Dallas is a great fit for Cooper Flag. I think Cooper Flag is going to thrive on a team with competitors. That team has a great foundation already with a good coach, a great coach. Let's not get it confused. Jason Kidd is a really good coach. They play a lot of defense. I think his play style is going to fit in very naturally. They'll probably start him at the three alongside like Gafford or I don't know if Lively plans on starting next year or what have you, but um, that front court is nasty of him, AD, and Gafford Lively. Um, so I really like the fit from that perspective, but I think from like an NBA balance perspective, it probably would have been nice for him to get into the East just to keep the talent a little bit more spread out. But even I didn't even mention this, but you got KD. KD's probably going to get moved this summer. Um, Devin Booker, what is he doing this summer? Does he demand a trade? Is he tired of the direction that the Phoenix Suns are moving in, and does he want to, start to win more and legitimize himself a little bit more? I mean, he's already had some winning, and he took Phoenix to a finals, and they could have won it, right? They were up 2-0 on Milwaukee, but um, does he want to get back more so to winning basketball? So we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a lot to go on in the summer this year. I'm excited to see what happens. The NBA, like I said, it's a soap opera. Soap opera. There's so much going on, so many storylines to follow. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see the way the playoffs wrap up, and we'll see the way things play out into the draft, and then into the free agency when everything opens up with trades and all that sort of stuff. So, wish you guys all the best. Thanks for sticking around and listening to me yap. Uh, as always, tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, engage with the content, man. It really helps everything grow. I've been loving doing this. It's been a lot of fun just talking about basketball, especially since I dislocated my ankle a few weeks ago and haven't been able to play basketball up to this point. It's been a way to just, be an outlet for me. So appreciate you guys listening, and I look forward to the next one. Peace.